Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly live immigration attorney chat here at Immigration for Couples. I'm attorney Megan Pastrana, and I'm happy to be here with all of you. I know a lot has happened since our last live session. I know there's a lot of questions about the pause, and I want to go over that with all of you first. I have some updates, and I know you all probably have a lot of questions that I'm happy to answer. First of all, again, welcome. If this is your first time here, we're happy to have you. Immigration for Couples, we are dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and across the world and navigating the U.S. immigration process. We do have a free resource center on our website, immigrationforcouples.com, and we host these weekly live chats. So you can have up-to-date information about everything that's happening in the world of couple-based immigration. And most importantly, so you have a community. Knowing that you're not alone in going through your immigration journey is really important, especially right now with how difficult things are. I see we have some individuals who already have their questions queued up, so I'm happy to go over those here after we talk about the 75 country pause. Please let me know in the comments, where are you at in the world? Where are you at in your immigration journey? And most importantly, how are you doing? And what questions do you have? I am streaming this live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So I answer the questions in the order that I receive them. Good morning, Lisa. It's great to have you here with us. Okay, Julia, welcome. Good morning to you as well. We will definitely get to your question. All right. Hello to you as well, Isaac. Great to have you here. So keep those coming. Where are you at in the world? Where are you at in your immigration journey? How are you doing and what are your questions? And I'll answer them in the order that I receive them. Good morning to you, Rocio. All right, so let's go ahead and let's dive into the 75 country pause updates. This is a really big one. It's extremely disheartening. I know that we've received a lot of questions. We had posted videos on our social media, and we've been receiving a lot of questions about this. This 75 country pause will take effect tomorrow, the 21st. We really do have fairly limited details, but I want to talk about who is and who is not impacted. I'll talk about what we do know. The big question we were receiving is, what about interviews? If I already have an interview scheduled, what happens to my interview? And a lot of questions about, what about the K-1 fiance visa? Is it included? Or is it included or is it excluded? And so we'll go over all of that, and then, all the questions that you have queued up here in the comments as well. So let me pull up and I'll see if, yeah, I'm going to throw this in the comments here. So that's going to probably be the easiest. I'm going to throw it in the comments so you can see it. If you're watching this on the replay, we'll be sure to put that on the screen or in the comments so you can see and follow along. I just think this will be easier given how many countries and all of the details. I'm going to throw it in the comments for all of you. So this is the effective date, January 21st, for the pause for the 75 countries. So I threw that in the comments. So wherever you're watching this, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, you'll see that list. Unfortunately, it might break it up into parts because it is so long. Like I said, after today's live, we'll also throw it in the comments and bring it up on the screen. So let's go over who is impacted and who isn't. So those are the 75 countries. Who is impacted is anyone who has a case at a U.S. embassy or consular post. So this pause is specifically for the U.S. embassy and consulate. So that means if you're going through a spouse visa process, if you're going through a fiance visa process, any process that requires a U.S. embassy or consular officer to make a decision on your case, this 75 country pause would potentially apply to you. I say potentially because we are going to talk about the K-1 visa specifically. So I want to give just a little bit of background, because what becomes extremely confusing is the fact that last year alone, we had over 400 policy changes. And there were a lot of policy changes specifically with travel bans and pauses. And so I'm going to give a quick overview of history of this past year to give you a little bit more understanding, because that's where I think it gets so confusing for individuals, is we've had travel bans and different iterations of travel bans and USCIS pauses, and now this is a visa pause. So this visa pause, again, specifically the 75 countries, is for U.S. embassies and consular posts. This is not USCIS. USCIS does have a separate pause, and like I said, I'll go through that history, but this is not USCIS. So USCIS is any application like adjustment of status that happens in the United States through a USCIS office. Adjustment of status would not be impacted. The part where it becomes confusing, and let me go through that overview of the travel bans and the pauses, is that in June of 2025, we had our first travel ban. There were 19 countries. And again, I'll pull these up on the screen after our live. We'll make sure those are up if you want to watch this on the replay and throw it in the comments. But there were 19 countries. In June of 2025, there was a travel ban. In that travel ban, there were exceptions. There were exceptions for immediate relatives. So spouse visa applications, family petitions, so petitions for parents and children, they were excluded, they were exempt. So the individuals from those 19 countries, if they were going through a spouse or family-based case, were not impacted directly by that June ban. Unfortunately, K-1 fiance visas were not given an exemption. So anyone from those 19 countries, such as Burma, if they had a fiance visa application and they went to their interview, we saw denials in those fiance visa cases. And I say we, I mean my colleagues, the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Luckily, we did not have any clients directly impacted, but that is what was happening in June. Then fast forward December 2025, that travel ban was expanded to 39 countries. And that travel ban in December was very unique in that it removed exceptions for spouses and immediate relatives. So at that point, those 39 countries, which included the 19 countries from June, where there was an impact then at that point for spouse and fiance visa cases. And then shortly after that, January 1st of 2026, USCIS made what they call a reciprocal announcement, pausing those same 39 countries, pausing USCIS applications. So at that point, there are since January impacts to spouse visa applications, to adjustment status applications, to anyone who has an application pending either with the Department of State, U.S. embassies or consulates, or with USCIS. And then now fast forward to this 75 country pause. It is for those 75 countries, for U.S. embassies and consulates. Yes, some of the countries on that 75 country list were part of these June and December and January Department of State travel bans and pauses. So that's why it becomes extremely complex, and it matters what country you are from and what list that you were on. But right now, if some of the newer countries on this list, for example, the 75 countries, Brazil is on the list, but they were not in the prior USCIS pauses. So I know this is a ton of information. I have a lot of questions. Yes, and we're going to go over that, Marissa, of the exceptions of who is and isn't impacted. So as soon as I get through all of this, I'm trying to go through the 30,000 foot overview so I can get to your the granular questions that all of you have. So who is impacted right now? Immediate relatives are impacted. So spouse visa applications, family-based applications, but who isn't impacted is if you were not on those prior June and December travel bans and USCIS pauses, then this pause is only for U.S. embassies and consular posts. So that's who's impacted. There are exceptions. So there is an exception for dual nationals. So Marissa, that you were asking about, there's so many questions coming in. I just lost yours, but you were asking, what if a person has a dual nationality? And so, yes, that's been something that we did receive clarification on the 14th. Dual nationals applying with a valid passport of a country that is not listed in the 75 country pause would be exempt. So for example, say you have dual citizenship, say you're a citizen of Iran and then also of Italy. Iran is on that 75 country pause list, but Italy isn't. So if you were going through the process as an Italian citizen, you would be excluded. So you would not be impacted. The other place that is unclear, and I'm actually going to skip to that next, is the fiance visa. So this is the big question that we've been receiving. What about fiance visas? And the answer is that right now there is not a clear policy or not a clear update on how fiance visas will be impacted. There are rumors that U.S. embassies and consulates have responded directly to practitioners saying that K-1 visas are excluded, but there are also rumors of the opposite, that they're saying that fiance visas aren't going to be excluded. So it's unknown at this point. This is evolving daily. So as we have more updates, I promise I will make a video and I will let all of you know as soon as I have more conclusive information. The thing that makes the fiance visa such a big question mark, and that's why I did that overview, is that in June 2025 travel ban, fiance visas were not given an exemption. They were impacted. And the other thing that makes the fiance visa a big question mark of how it'll be treated is that the policy, the policy is very vague. It's very short. It first came out on social media, and then the Department of State had an announcement, but basically it says, immigrant visas are impacted. Fiance visas technically are non-immigrant visas because the point of the fiance visa, you obtain it so you can come to the US to get married. So on the form that you file, it's called a non-immigrant visa. But if you go to the Department of State website, they have a chart and they break down immigrant and non-immigrant visas. You'll find that the fiance visa is listed on the immigrant visa section with a little star that says they're non-immigrant visas, but we treat them as immigrant visas because you're coming with that purpose to immigrate. So that's why U.S. embassies and consulates don't have a clarity on this either. That's why a lot of practitioners, that's why we are waiting, because the fiance visa really is both simultaneously. So as soon as we have more updates, we will let you know how the fiance visa is going to be impacted. We're reaching out for our clients that are potentially impacted to get more details of how their case will be treated. Again, we'll give you updates as we have more. And then the other big question that I'm getting is, what about interviews? So if I am impacted by this 75 country pause, I have an interview after the 21st. What's going to happen? And so finally, we have some updates that we received on the 14th that said if you have an immigrant visa appointment, and if you are from one of the impacted countries, you can still submit your applications. You can still attend your interview. The department will not cancel your interviews. They will continue to schedule appointments, but no visas will be issued. And that after the interview, your case will be held in a state of pause or administrative processing, so that they're going to still conduct the interview. So your interview won't be canceled, but they're not going to be able to make a decision. So these are the details that we have so far. This is what we know. I know it's very disheartening to this news. It's heartbreaking. There's nothing more that I can say. I know that so many lives are impacted, and I can also say I've practiced immigration long enough. Unfortunately, immigration is a political beast, and this too shall pass. We have seen our firm. We have gone through all kinds of changes and all of the politics that pull immigration all different directions. We will get through this together. I know there's no words to make you feel better for someone who is from one of those 75 countries and impacted. Please know there will be litigation. There is litigation right now for the June and December travel bans and pauses that's making its way through the federal court. We're hopeful to see positive changes. I've had a lot of individuals ask, what can I do? And I see that already in the comments. What should we do if we if we're impacted? Reaching out to your representatives and considering litigation. Consider joining a lawsuit. You need to make sure you do your research. You need to interview litigation attorneys, make sure your case it's an ideal or a good decision or a viable decision to consider litigation, but that's something else that you could look at. All right, so I know I have a lot of questions here about the pause. Okay, let me see if I have any other questions about the pause that I wanted to go over to make sure. Okay. I think we have so many questions coming in here. I'm just going to have to go through them in order. Oh, this is great. We'll take this happy news here, Joseph. Awesome. You're very welcome for all the help. We're really happy to hear that the fiance visa was approved on the 15th. That's very exciting. So we're all celebrating you. And that the interview only took 3 minutes. That's fantastic. And the wait time about 13 months. Yes, and you shouldn't They tell you not to buy a plane ticket until after you get the visa. Yes, you should wait. Definitely follow the consular post advice about waiting for buying a plane ticket. You just want to make sure you have that in your hand before you start making travel plans. So congratulations, that's really exciting, and that holds true with the video that I just released about current fiance visa wait times being about 14 months. So congratulations, that's really exciting. I'm glad that yours was one of the first ones up here in the queue. All right. All right, so you applied for the fiance visa while you were still working outside your home country. You recently moved back. Should I update my address on the application or wait until it gets approved? So you are supposed to update your address whenever you move. The fiance visa applications are a little different for the beneficiary, and so there are opportunities on future steps to be able to update your address as well. Okay. So, Dalton here again. Great to have you back. You petitioned for Hannah to come in May 25. You just did fingerprints 2 weeks ago. Curious how much longer from here for USCIS. So you're going to have to, let's see if you have any other details. Refresh my recollection on where you're at in the process. So I can only give you information based on what is showing up here. So I don't see any other parts to your comment. Let me know, Dalton, what petition was filed, and yeah, just give me some more details so I can help you answer your question. Okay, so your wife arrived on the fiance visa in 2023, and you did your removal of conditions. Or am I seeing USCIS scrutinizing social media posts the administration doesn't agree with politically? Yes, the American Immigration Lawyers Association has reported an uptick in scrutinizing of social media accounts. There have been practitioners who have reported seeing more questions at interviews specifically related to social media. That's something that we look at with our clients and help them to be prepared and mitigate possible issues that could come up in the process. So yes, social media is important. Okay, so if you file your fiance visa and then you move, you're in Texas and then you move to Arizona for work, will this prolong the process? So first of all, with the fiance visas are all going to be processed at the same service center, and moving to another jurisdiction is not going to directly impact your wait time. For adjustment of status cases, it will, because the wait time is dependent largely on your jurisdiction where you're living. So moving to another state, you could move to a shorter or a longer line. And yeah, I think it's interesting that individuals ask, now that the 75 country pause, is it going to go faster for the rest? And the answer is no. It's heartbreaking for everyone, and it's not a benefit to anyone for these pauses. And I know that you're asking because wait times are long, and you're hopeful that there'll be some kind of silver lining, right? But this pause is extremely inhumane, and this administration, particularly with the pause and the increased scrutiny, it is not going to make things go faster for others, because they are basically saying with this pause that they are implementing increased scrutiny and more hoops to jump through and that's for everyone. So no. So if you abandon the fiance visa and you move to the Philippines, how long is it to transition from a K-1 visa to a spouse visa? So for the fiance visa, and I definitely encourage you to talk with your attorney before making that transition. I'm not sure on the reasons for considering this. If you're wanting to be together, I would need, you definitely need to speak with an attorney. I'm happy to speak with you in private if you'd want to schedule a consultation and we can talk through that more. But transitioning rather, it's not really a transition. If you have a fiance visa case pending and then you get married, the case is going to be denied and closed, and then you're going to be having to start brand new with the spouse visa process. The spouse visa process on average is a solid 24 months, give or take, depending on country. So you'd be losing the time that you have spent waiting on the fiance visa petition, and then putting yourself back in a line. So it's not, you don't really get to transition it. You'd be having to file a new application. All right, and I would like to see if Dalton had thrown in any more. Okay, Dalton. Um, got it. Okay, thank you. That helps, Dalton. So for the fiance visa application. So yes, once the fiance visa application is filed, it takes about 8 months for that petition to be approved or a decision. And then from there, the fiance visa is assigned a case number by the National Visa Center. That takes about 2 months. And then from there, the case will be transferred to the U.S. Embassy or consular post for interview scheduling and next steps. All right. So hopefully that helps answer your question, Dalton. Thank you for giving those additional details there. All right. I try to go in order. Like I said, I have questions coming in from 4 different places: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So it takes me just a minute. Okay, so I'm not sure if I follow your question. Your wife is Colombian. What should we add to our package to tell the US she earns and plans to earn versus take? Okay, I understand what you're asking. So you're basically asking, what can I do? My spouse is included in that 75 country pause. Is there something we can do to mitigate the risk of being placed in that pause post interview? And you're right that a lot of this pause was based on saying that the immigrants will be taking from the U.S. And so that's why you're saying, what can I do to show that that's not our plan? And that's you're thinking around along the right lines. When there is a policy in place, how can you show that you're going to be exempt? Is what you're doing. Right now, there is not a formal process to overcome the pause if you're impacted. They say that they are going to review the process, and we may see. I'm just speculating. We may see additional forms. Of course, there's going to be additional updates. Like I said, there's litigation pending, so this is going to be an ever evolving process, and we'll let you know. As soon as we have more information. At present, there's not a formal mechanism for you to collect documentation to try to refute that position of the government. Something, like I said earlier, you'd need to speak with an immigration attorney about. So if you have an immigration attorney, speak with them about whether or not litigation might make sense in your particular case. Some individuals are considering, looking at litigation to sue the government. Like I said, there is federal litigation pending for the prior travel bans and pause. So that's something else to look at. My heart goes out to you and everyone impacted. And again, this too shall pass. All right. So your I-130 was approved and you've already received the welcome letter from the National Visa Center. But with a pause on immigration visa in Jamaica, what should we do next? Great question. So yes, that 75 country pause is in place and they're still doing interviews. So take those next steps. Don't let the pause make you freeze. You're able to move forward with that process. And this goes for everyone. If you're just embarking on your immigration journey, you are still able to file spouse and fiance visa applications. You're still able to file adjustment of status. You're still able to file for an immigration benefit. So don't let the pauses and the travel bans keep you from taking those next steps. And if your case was approved, you can move forward with completing all of the national visa steps, and getting yourself in line for an interview. Of course, strategically, speak with your immigration attorney. Our strategy for each client's case is going to be different depending on what country they're from, the case type, whether they are part of the 75 country pause or whether they were part of the prior travel bans and USCIS pause. So it really is going to be very case dependent. But yes, taking next steps is still, you're still able to do that. So great question. I'm glad you were asking that. Okay, so your wife just received a letter for our biometrics, and that the biometrics were also taken at the embassy. So I assume you went through a fiance visa process. And yes, while biometrics might be taken abroad, Oftentimes that's not going to transfer over, shockingly, to the USCIS system. So it is common to get a biometrics appointment in the US and the US side as well. All right, Julia, good morning. You're in New York City. Great to have you with us. Morning, Monique. It's so great to have you here. Awesome. And Rocio, you're in Costa Rica. Fantastic. Such a beautiful country. All right. So your wife is in the DR. You filed in April last year. Things are slow, but you're going to be able to visit next month. And my case has no number. Should it where things no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I follow fully your question, but if you filed last year, you filed a spouse visa, you would have received a receipt notice from USCIS with a case number on there. Once that USCIS case has been decided, then it would move on to the National Visa Center and receive a number after that. Aw, that's awesome. Good morning to you as well. You're in Memphis, Tennessee, and your husband is listening in London. Fantastic. Great to have you both here. Okay, great. Congratulations. So your application was approved and now you're waiting on them to send it to the embassy, and what you should be doing now is preparing for the consular phase of your process. So it depends. Did you have a spouse visa or a fiance visa? The requirements are somewhat similar. The National Visa Center, they would notify you of the next steps to take. And then if it's a fiance visa application, your case has to be transferred on, and then the embassy, the consular post, would give you details when it's time to take the next steps. But collecting updated relationship evidence, financials, and getting those things in order is a really good thing to start doing at this point. So congratulations, though, on that application being approved. Aw. Oh, so you're a young married couple. You're going to be going to your interview. And a side note, she's expecting. Congratulations. That's super exciting. I know the interview can be a very unnerving part of the journey, as exciting because, you're getting to the final phase, but being in the government office on the hot seat can be intense. I have a lot of interview tips. And Ria, our amazing team member, Ria, she's always here with me helping. She can throw in some links to some of the videos that I made about preparing for your USCIS interview. Really important is to prepare. I know a lot of couples think, we know each other, we love each other, what is there to prepare? It's not like an exam, but when you've been together, with each passing year, dates and timelines, everything can start to blur together. And it's important to have that your relationship history and timeline set in your mind. Refresh your recollection, go over that, go over the application, go over the evidence. And Ria will throw those links in there as well. But prepare. That's the biggest tip I can give you, is prepare. And take care of yourselves as well. Get a good night's rest. If you have a meditation practice or something like that, engage in all of your self-care practices, because you want to go into that interview with confidence, right? That is a very good question. What factors have gone into to determine these pauses and these bans? The administration, immigration, has released some details about this, but a lot of the litigation is saying that a lot of the litigation that is currently pending in federal court is saying that these changes, these implemented rules and policies, are really what they call arbitrary and capricious. They really don't have a sound footing. So we will see how that plays out in the federal courts. All right. So you're in Algeria. You submitted your I-130 in November, got the notice it was received. You have a lot of hope and you don't know what's going to happen. So that's great that you submitted your petition and you are in line and you're one day closer. I know that I know that it can be, the uncertainty, the unknown can be very overwhelming and scary. And I actually made a video recently about, sometimes that fear can hold you back from taking forward motion. And you really should celebrate the fact that you didn't let fear or uncertainty hold you back. You got your petition filed. That's fantastic. And that you're maintaining your hope. So don't lose that. That's a fantastic way to go into your immigration journey. So congratulations on getting that petition filed, and hang in there. We'll all get to the finish line together. All right, I'm going to try to do as many more questions as I can here. Okay, so you have several parts to yours. You're from Uganda, you did your interview, um, in Saudi Arabia. However, you were asked for additional documents and your wife just submitted all of them, but it's not yet reviewed and my country is on the list. So I wonder if it will be impacted too because the embassy took my passport on the day of the interview. It took place on December 16th. Yeah, so the pause and being on that 75 country list, if you've had an interview and the visa has not been adjudicated or the case hasn't been decided, the pause will hold your case in a state of limbo. I know when they keep your passport, if you need that back, reaching out to the embassy or consular post to obtain that. And if you have an immigration attorney, definitely speak with him or her about the strategy for your case and what you can be doing right now to make sure everything is in order for your case. All right. So, Lena, you said you had your naturalization interview in October. 2 weeks ago, you were able to review the progress on the website. Now it's not available, and it's been 3 months without any notice. So, after a naturalization interview, immigration is able to take up to 120 days or 4 months to make a decision. Sometimes, unfortunately, it can take a little longer than that. If you mean that the online status on your online account isn't working, sometimes we've seen issues with that online account, but unfortunately, yes, it can take 4 months sometimes to get a decision post interview. Yeah, and Rocio, you're in Costa Rica. You're currently not included in that pause, but you're concerned about applying for the fiance visa. So, I've said multiple times here, I know that it's hard to get a process started when there's so much uncertainty. There's never going to be a perfect time to file. And considering, which process that you want to file for, be it a fiance or a spouse visa, those are all important considerations. But getting started, getting your application filed and having faith things will work themselves out. Like I said, there is a lot of litigation currently, and so we're hoping to see some positive changes soon on that front. Definitely speak with an immigration attorney to understand, what option really is best for both of you. If the fiance visa, what are the pros and cons of that fiance visa based on your own personal goals and plans. But maybe having that conversation before you get started will help you to have some confidence and clarity. I'm happy to meet with you both, but definitely don't let all of the chatter and all of the things that are happening right now hold you back from getting started. Yes, and like Maria says, I love Maria's optimism. Maria and Lisa here they come every week and they provide so much inspiration and support for our community. So I really appreciate that. Yes, I know we're all very sorry to hear about that, about the pause and continuing to pray and be optimistic during this difficult time. I very much agree with you. All right, let me go back here and let's see how many questions I can get done. Yeah, so there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of unknowns, that it could take 60 days. Yeah, we will see. Hopefully the pause ends quickly. But we'll have to see what happens with litigation and internally what changes occur. All right. So and hi to you as well, Adriana. Your husband has an interview for the I-130 in London. Are you expected or allowed to attend, and would it be beneficial for me to do so? No, you're not expected to attend. Two, it's very unlikely that they will allow you to go into the US Embassy or consulate. You usually have to ask beforehand for permission, and it's really up to the embassy if they're wanting to let other individuals in. Typically, they only want to allow in the immigrant beneficiary who's being interviewed, but it's not required. Is it beneficial? That depends. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to at least say, during the interview, if asked, where's your spouse today, even if you're not there, they're here in London, waiting with me, here with me for moral support. It doesn't hurt. It's not required, but yeah, that I have a lot of clients that ask that question. We walk through that. So Marissa, oh yes, Marissa, we went over that, the dual nationality. All right, thank you for that question. All right. So for you, a 212A4 refusal. Can a U.S. citizen sponsor submit a new I-864 based on assets only after reestablishing U.S. domicile if no joint sponsor is available? If a U.S. Oh, okay. So you were asking the same question. That I would definitely need way more details about your immigration case history. Is it possible to use assets as a financial sponsor? Yes, if you don't meet the income requirements, and it's up to the discretion of the officer whether or not they think the assets are sufficient. So typically, assets have to be 3 times the poverty guideline at least. And there are some consular posts. I assume your case is at a consular post because you did mention U.S. domicile. There are some consular posts that just do not want to use assets. They want to see income from an established position, whether it's self-employment or working for another company as it is a W-2 employee. So assets are possible, but that's going to really depend on the specifics of your case. So if you have an immigration attorney, definitely speak with him or her about the strategy, whether or not assets are viable. And if you also need to have a plan B as well, like a joint, as a joint sponsor, for example. So yes, and again, for any of you, Ria, you can throw in my scheduling link if anyone ever wants to have a private consultation with me one-on-one on Zoom or by phone to discuss specifics of your case and picking a path and all of that. I'd be happy to meet with you. All right. And Maria, good morning to you as well. And you're in Arizona and you're together with your fiance. That makes my heart very happy to know that you're together. That's fantastic. Can the ban on 75 countries have an impact on people who already are in the US via K1, K2 visa and have a 2-year conditional green card? For example, petitioning to remove conditions. So the 75 country ban is only for US embassies or consular posts. It's for decisions that are being made by a consular officer. So the I-751 is an application that's filed inside of the United States through USCIS. So that 75 country pause is not USCIS. But like I had talked about earlier, is that there was a June travel ban and then a December travel ban, and there were 39 countries, and there was also a reciprocal USCIS pause. And if you were on that 39 country list, then and you had been impacted by the USCIS pause that took effect in January, it is possible that it could impact, your removal of conditions application. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't file it. You still need to file timely. So it just really depends on if you were in that initial list in June and December and that USCIS pause. And Rocio, that's the part that we are unsure of at present for the fiance visa appointments. We are waiting to receive additional updates. As soon as we know more, we'll let you know. That was and I think it looks like maybe your question was time stamped probably about the time right before I had started to explain that. So, all right. So you are saying you feel that the case is hopeless. No, absolutely not. Your case is not hopeless. Like I said, there's a lot of litigation going on right now. This is not going to last forever. This will pass too. I've been practicing immigration for a long time. I've been through very volatile times with clients, and it passes. I know it feels a little hopeless right now, or maybe a lot. I completely empathize. I went through an immigration process with my husband, but don't lose hope. All right. And hopefully that's what you get from this community, seeing that you're not alone. We're all in this together. Okay, so you're in India for after filing the I-129F. I'm not sure if I fully understand your question. I'm going to answer with what I think you're asking. So you file the petition and then you do receive something called a receipt notice from immigration, letting you know that the case has been placed in line for review. Yes, and you're saying congratulations to Joseph Randall. So that's awesome. Yes, definitely some good news is always helpful for everyone. Okay, so again, the 75 country pause is for the Department of State, US embassies or consulates. It does not impact the I-130 applications that are filed with USCIS unless the individual is from one of the 39 countries from the December travel ban and USCIS pause. You can still file your I-130 application, though, even if you were on that 39 country list. All right. I'm going to go through here and see if I can grab like one or two more questions. I do need to go. I stayed extra long here today to go over as many questions as I could, as I know there's so many. Okay, so you were wondering about the fingerprints prolonging the process. I mean, it's just part of the process. Does it prolong it? I mean, yeah, it might make it a little longer to have to get the fingerprints, but it's part of the process. Um, Okay, so you have a 10-year green card. You were approved for a 2-year. After 2 years of marriage, you received a notice to file the I-751 removal of conditions. Do you have to do that? Yes. If you do not timely file or properly file the I-751 application, you can lose your card. But you said, wait, maybe I misread your question. You have a 10-year card though, and it was approved after 2 years. So that's interesting. You shouldn't have received, I see what you're saying now. You shouldn't, I read the 2-year. Okay. So yes, if you have a 10-year green card, a 751 application, it would not be required. That's a very unique situation to be in. And without seeing your card and your immigration history, I can't give you specific legal advice. I've definitely seen immigration do things like this in the past where they make mistakes, but you definitely should speak with the immigration attorney who helped you with your initial case. And if you need help, you're welcome to schedule a consultation and we can talk through that. That's a very unique situation because if you have a 10-year card, removal of conditions is not legally required. But if they're giving you that notice, there's something in the system that's not accurate. So, all right. Okay, yeah. So you're from Colombia. You previously lived in Indiana as a permanent resident. You had circumstances that required you to remain outside of the US and you're wanting to know about a reentry. Um, and you have a fiance that is now working in India on a J1 visa, and your name is Fernando. Well, it's very nice to meet you, Fernando. That's a pretty complex situation, and I've definitely helped individuals in similar circumstances. Of course, every case is a little different. I'm happy to speak with you in private, and we can talk about possible options to be able to preserve your residency status. That's a pretty complex situation, but feel free to schedule a consultation, and we can talk in private. All right. All right. You're very welcome. Best of luck with your interview. Let us know. Let us know how it goes. And I know Ria threw those interview tips in there for you as well. Okay. Oh, there's just so many questions. I wish you're very welcome, Rocio. I'm glad that it was helpful. There's so many questions. I wish I could get through all of these. You're very welcome. Have a great day as well. I'm going to look through all of these questions either way. Even though I wasn't able to get through all of them, I'm going to look through them and I can address them on our next live. So I'll be here next Tuesday again at 11 a.m. Eastern time. I do look through the comments and questions, and that lets me know what your questions are so I can make videos for all of you on social media. So please don't lose hope. Hang in there. Take care of each other. Lean on each other rather as a couple to get through this process. We will get through it. Do check out our free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com, and I will see you all next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Take care, everyone. Bye.